And welcome back to Hannity. And tonight I am joined by the man who just revealed right here on this program that he plans to form an exploratory committee for a possible 2012 White House run. Now, that announcement will come tomorrow at an event in Iowa. He is Texas Congressman Ron Paul. I'm singing Rand. And he has a thing or two to answer for about an incident. It occurred during his 2008 presidential bid. Now, after the primary in New Hampshire, the congressman's supporters pelted little old me with snowballs. And here's the scene that ensued.
We're great Americans, and you're not, Sean! You suck, Sean!
And joining me with the reaction to all of that is the author of this brand new book, Liberty Defined, 50 Essential Issues That Affect Our Freedom, and that's Dr. Ron Paul. Now, what happened was they had a focus group. So I went over to the focus group, and you were not in the debate that night.
I wonder why.
I didn't make the decision, but anyway, so you weren't in the debate, and I was being held accountable for that. And so I saw them all out there, and they said, no, you have to wait for security to take you out. I said, I'm not waiting for security. I walked right out in the middle of them, and, well, you're going to defend that?
Well, did you hear what Hillary said at one of our committee hearings about those supporters? She says they were the most enthusiastic, excited supporters I've ever seen in politics.
I agree. I've experienced it firsthand. All right. Let me ask you this, because you said, for example, I'll give you one example. You said about the Ground Zero mosque issue that you thought that this was a religious freedom issue. And I have a real problem when the families, and you said, you were raising the question about who's, raising the question just why and what's driving the people that were opposing it. Now, if we look at Imam Rayouf, guy that wants America to be Sharia compliant, that thinks Osama bin Laden is made in the USA, that we're partly responsible for what happened, you're not concerned about the families of 9/11 and their reaction after losing their loved ones?
But I'm also concerned about guilt by association and blanket guilt by a group. And if that goes through and you say you can't do it because it's Muslim and there were some bad Muslims over here and they did this means you blame the religion. And you don't want to blame the religion, but in order to do that, if something happened that it had to been a Catholic or something like that did it, would you think, oh, that's a good idea? We don't want, because he was a Catholic and he did bad things and therefore we can't allow a Catholic church to be built in a certain area.
But when I listen to you, I hear you talk about first founding principles, which, by the way, are really important. And I think that's the area that I would find an agreement with you. The difference is that the imam, while we believe in free speech, believes in a value system. When he says he wants America to be Sharia compliant, it's the antithesis. Wait a second. This is important. It is the antithesis of everything we believe in. Women don't have rights. They don't drive. They get stoned to death. They need 4 male eyewitnesses if they're raped. They don't get to go to school and work.
But that's not coming here. We have to
that's what he said he wants.
That's what we have to do is defend our principles. And actually, the principle here is a private property principle. We shouldn't have governments building buildings and telling people where to build. It should be a private property issue. If you own that land over there, you shouldn't be told what you can build on there. If you want to rent it to any type of religion, you should be able to. And you can't have guilt by association.
It's not guilt by association. The words of this guy on 60 Minutes that if somebody wants America Sharia compliant, Sharia by its very nature as applied, is one that denies women rights.
But that's a different issue entirely. That goes on in Saudi Arabia. But
he wants that in America, is what he said.
I know.
So he's fighting for that.
But then you defend it by a better idea. You defend it by the Constitution. They can't do that.
By opening the door. Isn't that opening the door for somebody who wants to overthrow America into a system that is contrary to our fundamental beliefs?
I think you're closing the door on what it makes America great. Property rights and the fact that you don't have people guilty because they belong to a group. And you don't have everybody guilty because of something horrible that has happened.
I want to get serious here. If you ever got to be president, how would you cut back on the entitlement programs that you talk so much about and the welfare state and the nanny state that has been created? how would you tell America that Medicare no longer exists, Social Security no longer exists? How would you do that?
Well, the whole thing is since I believe that a president shouldn't be a king and can't do it, he has to persuade and get the people to agree and the Congress to agree. I think one thing, none of this would happen if you couldn't print money to pay the debt.
I agree with
Everything
you.
would be balanced then.
Mm-hmm.
So, but can I close down the Fed? Not as a president, you can't. But you could lead the charge on this. I mean, we've been doing this for a couple of years, and I think you agreed with our audit the Fed and get that. So you have to keep pushing on it. But if we could get the people to agree that they have to quit printing money, and now that we're going into the inflationary repercussions of this, all this printing money in the last few years, I think we could get people to do that. And then you limit overall spending, and it'd be more like saying, well, everybody has to cut 10% or
Last
whatever.
question, and I got to let you go. 47% of Americans don't pay taxes. They think the tax system's fair. So when you have almost a voting majority that don't pay taxes, how dangerous is that?
Well, that part isn't dangerous. I'd like to increase that to 100% that don't pay taxes, and then shrink government big enough so we don't have to have an income tax. I mean, most of our history, we didn't have an income tax.
What would you support in an alternative for government revenues for infrastructure and defense?
Let it do through user fees, gasoline taxes for your highways.
Air tax, support it?
Not really. It's better than what we have, slightly.
But it would be too high.
Oh, it would be way too high because, but it would be great for the underground economy at 30% or something. Can you imagine people go to the store and, I have to pay another 30%? There'd be so much underground. That's what happens in the Soviet type systems. The social system, there's a big growth of the underground economy.
Are you going to tell your supporters not to throw snowballs at me next time?
I'm going to advise them. I don't tell people what to do. I say nonviolence and tolerance. That is the message.
All right. Congressman, it's really good to see you. Thank you for being with us. Appreciate it.